Hi guys, it's Jeff here, the photographer's mentor, and in this live broadcast I want to discuss something which I know a lot of you really struggle with. And believe it or not, I've had photographers come to me to join my 6 Steps program and said they've struggled with this particular element of their photography business for years and still haven't got around to making it happen or go ahead with it. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about specialization. Now, the photography industry has massively changed over the past 5 or 10 years. When I started out in 2004, after I left the Royal Navy where I'd served as a military photographer, most photographers out there were general photographers. So they were wedding photographers, portrait photographers, they did a bit of commercial, they did a bit of everything. Now, when I started out, we went niche, we started to specialize. And the reason I did that is because when I left the Navy, I got a £7,000 resettlement grant to spend on becoming a civilian. And I knew that I had some decent photography skills that I'd learned as a military photographer, but I needed to understand about really running the business and making the money side of photography, which most photographers really do struggle with. So I started spending a lot of money on marketing courses and marketing programs for photographers. And one of the first things I learned from a guy who at the time was called Charles Lewis, an American photography mentor, as I say, back in 2004. Believe it or not, I used to get his training program or in brochures and cassette, and then went on to CD form. So that was, but not cassette, like CD form. And they used to get a CD through, and I used to listen to it. It was like a recording, and then there'd be a brochure to go with it or workbook to go with it. And he at the time started to advocate the reason to go niche. Now, fast forward to 2020, the photography market is absolutely packed with photographers. And one of the worst things is it's packed with general photographers and freelance photographers. So I want to ask you a question. Are you, or do you class yourself as a general or a freelance photographer? Because if you are, you could potentially be really hampering the success of your business. And let me just put this into perspective. So if you try and be a photographer, everyone, so if you want to do babies, commercial, weddings, pets, everybody, you then become special to nobody. You're a generalist, right? And the only thing that can make you stand out and make you different from any other photographer who they are looking at, who is also generalist, is price. And there's always going to be somebody who's cheaper than you. Now, what's happened in the industry now, it's become flooded with lots of photographers wanting to be photographers, some really, really good, fantastic photographers, and people who are like hobbyists, people who just have grabbed a camera and are now calling themselves photographers. And they all go in as freelancers or general photographers right at the very bottom end, because they're struggling, because there's nothing that's making them stand out to anybody. They don't specialize. They aren't special to a certain niche of people. So the only thing they can do is reduce price. And quite often when you reduce price, when you put your prices down in order to win a client, you win the type of clients you don't really want. The tire kickers, the freebie hunters, the people who live their lives on Groupons just purely looking for a deal, and they don't really have any value in the service you provide. So wouldn't it be much better if you could work with photographers, work with clients who really valued you, who believed in everything you did because you were very, very special to them? And the best way of doing this is to become a specialist photographer. And this is what potentially scares the shit out of most other photographers who I speak to when they either come on board my program or ask me for advice on their business. And they'll say something like, Jeff, but if I give up the weddings and just start becoming a headshot photographer on LinkedIn, then what about my wedding clients? So your wedding clients can stay on Facebook. Have your wedding clients on Facebook and be a personal branding and headshot photographer on LinkedIn. But what about if there's any brides on LinkedIn? So I turn around and say, how many brides have you actually booked from LinkedIn? None. How many headshots have you booked from LinkedIn? None. Because you're a generalist, because you're not appealing to anybody. You're just in amongst all the other general photographers. Now, what you got to do is you want to think about your ideal client and think about yourself as well when you're looking for sort of like services. What you need to understand is when you're looking for services, quite often you're looking for something specialist. So if you're like me, if you're a coffee drinker, you might go to somewhere like a Starbucks or a Costa or a really, really posh little coffee shop and pay £5-6 for a coffee. And you don't mind, there's a choice of 20 different types of coffees from all over the world. That is your heaven. You don't want a cup of tea, you want a coffee. You couldn't care less about tea, right? So this is special and niche for you. And they're charging a lot more than a cafe that just does a coffee and charges you £2. They're charging 3 times the price. People want choice now. People want different things. Years ago, you go to a cafe and you get an Nescafe and that was it. You could have it with milk or without. Now you can go to specialist niche shops that specialize and deal with people who they become the perfect fit for. These people thrive on that particular brand. They love that brand because it really appeals to them. And these specialist industries make a lot of money because they charge a lot more. But these people aren't bothered about price. These people are bothered because it suits them perfectly. It fits their niche. So are you specializing as a photographer? This is something I'm really interested to know. And if you are specializing in a photographer, and I can go through all the comments at the end of the broadcast and come back to you. And also I've got Steph here who's going on and responded to some of the comments for me while I'm busy doing this video, because I'm finding it hard to do 2 things at once. Is if you're a specialist or if you're becoming a specialist, what area are you specializing in? What niche of photography? Is it headshots, personal branding, baby portraits, newborns, pet photography, weddings, aerial elevated photography? I'd be very interested to know, so let me know. So obviously with this sort of very cluttered current market, you need to stand out. And what you got to think of is think about your ideal client. Think about somebody, say for instance, I'm a guy who owns a chain of boutique hotels. Now, my hotels cost a lot of money. I've invested a hell of a lot of money in these hotels. I've decorated them. I've put all the finest upholstery in, and they're beautifully laid out. All the staff wearing their corporate tailoring outfits. It is a very, very posh hotel. Now, when I come to do my branding for the hotel, when I want to get loads of images onto booking.com and Expedia, and I want to put in my brochures and I want to do my website, am I looking for a general photographer who's just going to do it for £200? Or am I looking for a specialist who knows what I need, understands my business? And yes, he may going to charge me £4,000, £5,000, £6,000, but in comparison to my business and what I want from it, that's fine, because he's a specialist, because he appeals to me, because he is a specialist premium hotel or hospitality trade photographer. Same as a restaurant, restaurant owner. Are you looking for a general photographer who does half decent pictures of food, or do you want a real specialist fine food photographer who can really make the images stand out so you can practically smell and taste them in the news feeds? Because let's face it, if we go onto Facebook and we see a really, really nice picture of a steak and chunky chips in our news feed, what's the first thing we do? We start tagging our mates in, or tagging girlfriends or boyfriends in, saying, "Oh, we got to go here. This looks absolutely awesome. Let's go there next week." The potential power of good imagery for certain niches, sectors, it really, really sells. And people, big businesses, aren't going to trust a £200 or $300 photographer to make a botch job of their brand, their ultimate brand that they've built up. So when you start to become a niche photographer, you become great value to a certain amount of people. So instead of trying to please 100% of the market, look for 20% of the market. But remember, the good thing about this is when you become a niche photographer, the competition just starts to fall away. Think about it. Think about all the other photographers who are setting up, all the freelancers, all the generalist photographers. They don't stand out to a hotel. They don't stand out to a restaurant. They don't stand out to somebody who's in specialist business headshots and personal branding, because they're just general, right? So all they're selling is on price alone. As soon as you become a specialist, you move into a different bracket. So you go from the big, huge pond filled with loads and loads of photographers right at the very bottom end, squabbling over price. Then you become into another bracket. You become into a bracket where the price is a bit higher, but people value what you do and value the services you provide. Now, yes, there might be less customers, or less, as you think, potential customers, because originally you were looking at the bigger picture, the 100%. Now you're looking at 20%. But when you look around this pond, there's maybe 20, 30 other photographers in there. In the other pond, there was 20,000 photographers. So yes, there's potentially less clients, but the good thing is there's a hell of a lot less competition, much less competition than there was in the bottom end. And the clients you're dealing with are the type of clients you love to work with, and they pay you a shitload of money for doing it because they really appreciate your services, they really value your services. And, you know, I get so many people come in and inquire into me or dropping me messages, and they're absolutely awesome photographers, much better than I am, right? Really, really talented photographers, but they're struggling, and they're struggling now, or they might have set up 20 years ago, because they're a generalist, or even worse, a freelancer. Now, what people might disagree with me, but when I look at the term freelancer, I suddenly think of Fiverr.com, Freelancer.com, all these cheap sites which are saying, hey, look at me, I work for anybody, I'll give you the cheapest price. That is not how you want to build your brand, is it? Be truthful. You know, wouldn't you rather be doing 2 jobs a week as opposed to 20 jobs a week for £100 or £200, doing 2 jobs a week for £2,000 each? Of course you would, because this is the way to build a photography business. This is the way to get the foundation of your business working and running. And yes, it scares the shit out of a lot of photographers because they're frightened that they're going to lose customers. But remember, you've got lots of different channels. Now, I'll just give you one example. When we started off with the Russian brand photography, which was our wedding photography business. Then we expanded into nurseries. And then from the nurseries, we went into commercial. So we got into commercial. So we were specializing in construction and hospitality. Then about a year later, I met a makeup artist called Marissa, and she eventually became my girlfriend. And we started a business partnership, and we went into boudoir. Now look at those 4 different businesses. Those different businesses could not mix as one across websites and social media. So you couldn't have a wedding photographer posting pictures of trucks and construction on his Facebook page, because what's going to happen? You might get a bride's interest, and then you start posting stuff that's of no interest to them. So that's where a lot of photographers struggle with social media engagement. They're not concentrating on a particular type of people and being really informative, being the hub of everything to do with weddings, talking about wedding photography, talking about best places to get married, the latest dresses, the latest trends. Become a specialist on your Facebook page to a particular niche of people, and don't dilute it with other stuff that is of no interest to them. It's like having a party, and this might be quite sort of stereotypical, right? So imagine you have a party, and in one room is all the guys talking about football and blokey stuff, and in the other room is all the women talking about shoes and shopping, right? I know it's very general, right? But if you put one of the guys in the room with women, he's going to get really bored. Likewise, if you put one of the women in the room with the men, she's going to get really bored. So with your social media needs to be specialist, just like your businesses. But what I'm saying is, you don't have to create loads and loads of websites and loads of different businesses. You have one business that splits its services up and sends these messages out to different people across different social medias. You don't even need lots of websites. Like we had the boudoir business, we couldn't have the boudoir images on the same social media Facebook page as nursery kids. You can't have women in lingerie next to children. You know, so that had its own specific Facebook page and its own website. But you know what happened? When we became a specialist, we didn't sell the images, we sold the experience. It was a luxury experience. It made women feel amazing about themselves. And because we sold this luxury experience, we had people traveling from the top of Scotland, from down London to the northeast of England to use our studio, because we became the specialist go-to studio in boudoir in England. And we sold over 4,500 boudoir makeovers, not because we were the best, because we were the specialist, and then we became the perfect fit for that type of people we tried to aim our services, or we did aim our services at. So when I say start to specialize, what I mean is start to diversify your photography elements across different platforms. Maybe use your LinkedIn for a certain type of commercial, maybe headshots and personal branding. And then your portraiture or your weddings, put that onto Facebook and only talk about that on Facebook. And likewise on LinkedIn, only talk about your headshots and your personal branding, and connect with people who are going to be interested in that. And then on your Instagram, you can use that for your fashion or your street photography, you know, create multiple different businesses. You have LinkedIn pages. LinkedIn pages are like little websites inside LinkedIn. So you don't need a whole new website for your headshots. Just create a LinkedIn page to go with it. And then use your existing existing general photography website to go alongside your Facebook page for your weddings. It just depends what volume you're going to be getting from what different area. So does this give you something to think about? If you have, give us a thumbs up. It's good to hear your feedback. And one thing I must say is that this is the third live that I've done, and I'm really, really thankful for all the support I've been getting from photographers all over the world. It's brilliant just to have those messages, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm going to continue doing this all the way through 2020. I've got a plan of everything we're going to cover. And all these broadcasts are getting recorded anyway, so I'm going to upload them to my YouTube channel. So if you don't follow me on YouTube, head over to my YouTube channel. I'll just put a link inside the comments down here, and you'll be able to just click on there and subscribe to the YouTube channel. In addition to that, I've now created, or earlier on in the year, created a free group called the Photographers LinkedIn Success Group. And this is because a lot of you guys haven't really grasped LinkedIn, and it's so powerful, especially for niching your photography business down. And what I've just been talking about in this video, I've put a few videos together in this little private Facebook group. Again, I'll pop that link into the comments here. So if you want to join, it costs nothing to join. You just go ahead to Facebook, request to join. I'll let you in, and then say hello when you're there. If you've got any questions, you can message me through there. And also there's quite a few training units in there with information on how to really, really work forward as a photographer on LinkedIn. And one final thing, I hope if you've enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and say you have, and let us know that you found this informative. I'd just like a couple of things from you. So first of all, what do you really struggle with in photography, as in the marketing element or the business element? Because if you put a few different comments in here, then from those comments, I can start to put together PDF brochures, videos like this, because the past two videos I've done, it's been accompanied with a PDF brochure or flowchart or something to help people out. And I want to spend time, I'm devoting so much of my time, as well as with the clients I work with on the 6 Steps to Success program, I'm going to develop quite a bit of time now into helping photographers openly on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, because I really, really value what you guys are doing within the industry, but a lot of you are struggling. And it's not because you're crap photographers, it's just because you haven't nailed the marketing aspect. And as artistic people, it's something we really struggle with. I've only got to grips with it because I'm sad and I love marketing. So if you're struggling with anything, put in the comments below. It will be great to hear what you're struggling with, and I will ultimately try and turn that around, put some videos together, and also put some handouts together so I can really, really help you overcome this problem. Next week, I don't know if any of you are, but I'm at the British Photography Awards at the Savoy Hotel in London. It's on Tuesday the 4th. So if you go in there, drop me a message or pop your name in the comments below, because it would be great to meet up with you. I was at the Master Photographer Awards earlier last year in November, and the amount of people who come up to us and say, "Hi Jeff, you're the guy off LinkedIn, how are you doing?" And it was really nice, and I got to make quite a few new friends and connect with some of the people who are actually me connections on LinkedIn and who I've messaged but actually see them in person. And I'll also be at the British Photography Awards with a fantastic lady called Karen Massey, Karen Massey's doing a lot of stuff for female photographers to really, really promote them in the industry and help them with their branding and the building of their business. So it's a great association, and it's all about, you know, making money and getting yourself out there as a female photographer. And me and Karen are going to put together a workshop in March on LinkedIn, so using all my skills and knowledge as a LinkedIn influencer or mentor to help photographers really succeed in their business. So we're going to tag Karen into this, and if you're interested about that workshop or anything to do with the Female Photographers Association, if you are female, but I think she'll let men in as well, drop her a message and speak to Karen, because she's a lovely woman, and like me, she's got your interest at heart. It's all about pushing forward and trying to make this industry a really fantastic one, but a one where, you know, you're going to reap the rewards, because there's a lot of opportunity out there. So hope you found this useful, guys. This is me signing off. I will be back online again on Monday. I'll not be doing my live next Wednesday because I'm on my way back from London from the British Photography Awards, probably with a really bad hangover because there's free gin all night as well. So hope you found it useful, and I'll see you in the next video. If you've got any questions at all, please just drop me a message. A lot of guys and women are surprised the fact that I actually respond to every single message I get. And if you've got a question, ask it direct. If I can help you, I will. I'll either record a little video or I'll leave you a voice clip. I tend not to type because it just takes too long. I get a lot of messages and I'm dyslexic and I'm not a very good typist. So if I can give you the information, I'll leave a couple of messages or a couple of videos and answer your question. Please don't be afraid to ask. This is what I'm here for. I want to try and make a difference in 2020. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye now.